So today on the podcast, I have one of the most positive people I've ever had the privilege of meeting. Her name is Jules King, and she is an adaptive CrossFit athlete. Jules was diagnosed with Parkinson's at the age of 35, if I'm correct. But her first symptoms started when she was 19 years old, so went undiagnosed for 16 years, which left her in a state where she was in a wheelchair and couldn't do much for herself. She then came back from this to find CrossFit, where she then began to compete, where she's competed in the Marbella Championships, and she's also managed to compete in triathlons as well. Jules has proved so many people wrong and is trying to promote the message of positivity that life doesn't end when you get diagnosed with a disease like Parkinson's. It's such a great message, and I hope you enjoy episode 6 of the podcast. Please remember to like and subscribe and share with anyone who may enjoy it. And yeah, really enjoyed this one with Jules, so thank you for your time, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. Jules King, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Do you want to tell everyone a bit about yourself, what you do, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, well, I'm Jules, obviously, and I have early onset Parkinson's. I have managed to get myself from stage 5, the last stage of Parkinson's, to, I'm not quite sure what stage, but to a livable standard of life through CrossFit and exercise and diet, mainly CrossFit.
That to me, because I came across your story through, obviously, Craig Ritchie's video that he did of you. And that, I watched that and I couldn't help but be motivated and feel positive.
Oh, bless
because
you.
Someone who has obviously gone through so much and is so positive, and you've obviously, the way you spoke about it, you've seemed positive the whole way through it. I kind of want to start with where it came about. Where did Young Onset Parkinson's come about for you?
So I was like, I've had an amazing childhood, and I had a child quite young at 17, and then my partner who I was with at the time, he died in a car crash, and they think the shock of that brought it on. So the symptoms started literally a month after his death. So yeah, just like smallest. To be honest, I didn't even realise it was a symptom at the time. I was out partying, and my big toe curled up, which was really bizarre, and I just couldn't relax it to save my life. Like, it just would not relax. It was really quite painful.
Was it like a cramp?
Yeah, quite. Yeah, it was just really sticking up, and whatever I did, however hard I concentrated, just would not relax, whatever. So yeah, and then the other thing I noticed is that my rhythm had gone. Like, I was a ballet dancer, loved dancing, always on the dance floor at nightclubs and everything. And I just couldn't dance. Like, the rhythm in me had gone, and I was like, just couldn't move. But everyone thought that was a bit bizarre, but I just brushed it off and thought it was nothing.
So what when that was happening, how were you feeling? Did you just think there was something, like maybe it was like a virus that was affecting you? What did you think it was?
To be honest, I didn't think it was anything really. I just thought it was just a bit bizarre.
Did you just think you lost the ability to dance?
Yeah. I thought I'd all of a sudden lost my groove, but yeah, no, it was really bizarre. Like, I'm very much the person that's like, when you're ill, you just get on with it, and if you complain about it, it makes it so much worse.
Yeah.
So just grit your teeth and get through it.
So, obviously there was those symptoms where you started losing your ability to move the way you wanted, but obviously doesn't seem as severe as it got. So then from there, what were you following on symptoms where you then started to think this is actually something wrong?
Okay, so balance was a big issue. I was falling over like for no reason at all. My top half would go, but my bottom half wouldn't come with me, and that's when I perfected my penguin dive. But yeah, it was balance was the big issue that I thought, yeah, something's not quite right here. And I was working in Ward 3 in Withybush Hospital, my local hospital, and my the sister who was my boss said, you know, the patients are supporting you rather than you're supporting the patients, which I was devastated because I loved my job. But yeah, so that was when I really realized something wasn't quite right.
It's I can't even imagine what it would feel like to be so like not be in control of what I'm doing. I can't because obviously I'm someone who's I've grown up, I've been able to do what I want, I'm perfectly healthy. I can't imagine that, you know, all of a sudden. How old were you at this point?
I was, well, 19, between 19 and 23 this was, so yeah.
So just not being able to voluntarily do the things that I want to do, that's what it's so mind blowing to me that like, and obviously Parkinson's has this, we have this ideology of it that it's when you're older.
Yeah.
I'd actually never heard of young onset Parkinson's until the video that I watched a week ago.
Oh, yeah.
So go on, sorry.
As well as quite unheard of, but yeah, it was. That's why I think it went misdiagnosed and undiagnosed for so long.
So when did you first go to see a doctor about what was going on?
So I went when I was about 21, when I was still working at that point, and I had like a shake, like my body would shake all the time. I wouldn't have said it was a tremor. It was more like just a, like, you know, when you're really cold and you like shake, shiver, it was like that. And I said my balance was wrong, and my walking was funny because I was dragging my leg. That was the other thing. Like people were saying, oh, what have you done to your leg? And I'd be like, I don't actually know. I didn't even realize I was dragging it. And so I went to see them, and a movement disorder guy I went to see, and he basically said I took too much Ventolin for the shakes, that they were giving me the shakes, and he was at a loss as to what was wrong with me, because I had a lot of problems in my ears while I was growing up, and they just put the balance problems down to that.
Wow.
So it's just really bizarre.
So then you obviously they were at a loss as to what it was. Did symptoms start to get worse? Did you start to lose any abilities thereon?
Yeah, so the balance problem became a real big issue. I was falling over and hurting myself quite a lot. Like I ejected myself out of the gate from my garden, and I cut all my face down my chin and my cheek and my nose, because I wouldn't have the ability to put my hands out to stop me either. So the messages just weren't getting to them to save me. And then the coordination got worse, and it just deteriorated over time to the point where I was in a wheelchair then.
So what age did you end up in a wheelchair?
So I'm quite stubborn and refused to get in a wheelchair for a long time, but I was wheelchair bound pretty much from 30, I'd say.
Wow.
But I was using a wheelchair like to go out with my kids. If I wanted to go for a walk with them, my mum would push me in the wheelchair up to when I was 30, but I was constantly in a wheelchair from 30.
So I kind of wanted to get into this later, but I think it's a good time now. How did it affect your kids, obviously, when they were growing up?
We talked about this the other day because we haven't actually ever discussed it. They were wonderful. Like when they just adapted, to be honest. They didn't think it was anything different. It was just a norm to them. Mum was just a bit spazzy and fell over all the time. Yeah, and she walked a bit funny, and we never really got any comments off other children, so they weren't too bothered by it. Like they had a really loving home. Like I was lucky enough that I didn't have to work, so I got to spend all that quality time with them. So as a family, it didn't really affect us as much. They've just become really caring people, and they're just lovely from it, to be honest.
Yeah, your daughter in the video had this really great, just sort of positivity about her, about the whole thing.
They don't have much choice. They have to be positive. They got.
Yeah, the most positive person I think I've ever come across is the mum. They can't not be, can they?
And my son was like, when he was a small child, like baby, he to walk around with him was quite dangerous because there was the possibility I'd fall with him. So he just used to grab on to me, like, so yeah, they just adapt, don't they? Kids are quite resilient.
Yeah. So then obviously you were in a wheelchair at 30. So by that point, it's been 11 years since your first symptom and you still hadn't been diagnosed. So how long then was it until the diagnosis of young onset Parkinson's?
So I got officially diagnosed when I was 35. I went into hospital with a DVT, quite an extensive one, and nearly lost my leg through it.
Wow.
But so I came out of hospital pretty much in a cabbage state. As Sophie calls it, the cabbage era. I couldn't do anything for myself. I couldn't scratch an itch. I couldn't feed myself. Even sitting by the dinner table, they'd have to tie me to the chair because I would just fall forward into my dinner because I had no, what I call no center of gravity, but just no strength or any ability to hold my body. Yeah, so the DVT, then that was pretty much the cabbage era, and yeah, and then 35 I got diagnosed.
So 16 years it went undiagnosed.
Yeah.
That's insane. Obviously, it was like you said before, it was because you were so young, they didn't really believe it would be Parkinson's.
And I also think I didn't shout loud enough either because I didn't complain enough that I was as ill as I was.
Were you in pain with it, or were you keeping that in?
Yeah, because I'm still suffering with pain quite a lot. But no one knows because my attitude is, what's the point of saying that you're in pain? Because it just makes it worse. Because if you get sympathy for it, you're like, oh yes, it is really bad. But if you're not given sympathy, then you just get on with it. But yeah, I was in pain quite a lot, and I had to hide that from my children as well. When they were jumping on me and pushing me down and things, and I was like, that really hurts, but I won't show it.
So when you were diagnosed, so when they told you it was young onset Parkinson's, how did you feel at that moment?
A relief, a big relief that I had a name for something that was wrong with me, because I felt like I spent years proving that there was something not quite right with me, and also a little bit of devastation as well, because I was under the belief that medication for Parkinson's only worked for 5 years. So I was like, oh no, I've only got 5 years to like cram in as much as I can to that time. But yeah, so
It's because I think I had, Michael J. Fox, the actor out of Back to the Future, he had young onset Parkinson's, didn't he?
yes, yeah, he
Yeah,
did.
I don't know how that passed over my head. I have heard of young onset Parkinson's, just hadn't thought about it.
I really want to meet him. I think me and him would get on like a house on fire.
Because he had I'm pretty sure he had a similar issue where it was a trauma affected the onset of it. I'm not sure if you know much else. Like, do you know anything else that can cause it? Obviously, it's genetic, but is there anything else that can cause it?
I wouldn't know, to be honest. I'm quite. Yeah, no, I wouldn't know. Sorry.
Okay. So obviously, when you were diagnosed, what was the medication they then prescribed you?
So the magic pill that I always wanted was the Madapar, which is levodopa. Yeah, within 4 hours of taking it, my mum noticed the difference in movement in my body. I personally didn't notice, but it was the next tablet I took, and then I was walking around on the phone to my brother going, I'm walking.
Like, I can't believe that you spent like few years in a wheelchair and obviously in your cabbage era, as you call it,
The
and
baby.
yeah, and then all of a sudden you take two tablets and
Yeah,
you're up and moving again. It's like the answer was always there, kind of thing, but they just
yeah,
obviously didn't know.
yeah. It really was. It's as simple as that. But then when you know what it is always that simple.
Yeah. So how did they diagnose it? How did they come to the conclusion that that was what it was?
And so there was a few other diagnoses like flown around. Dopa responsive dystonia was flown around. Um, uh, Basically, Parkinson's, I think, is diagnosed whether you respond to the medication or not. I think there is something you can have done, like a DAT scan or something like that, to check the nerves and things. But I got mine diagnosed through the use of Madapar because I was so responsive to it.
It's just I'm still in disbelief at the fact that it took two tablets and you were up and moving again.
But when the medication wears off, I went back to like cabbage state, and then I'd have to wait for the next medication to kick in until I was moving again.
Wow. So obviously that would have brought you some level of sort of hope as to getting back to how you were previously. But was there any time where you sort of felt like this is it? This is just what life's going to be now, where you're just in a wheelchair, you're tied to a chair to stay upright at dinner. Like, did you ever believe that was it?
No, the God, no. I'm, as I've said, I'm so stubborn, it's unreal. No, never give up hope. I never did. Like there was one day, just one day, I thought it was all over. But apart from that day, it was all, my family is really positive and I was included in everything. So there was never any real down days, to be honest. So yeah,
So
no, never given up hope.
what was that day? What caused you to feel like that? Because obviously of how positive you are, what made that just be pushed aside?
Basically, I felt like my body was giving up on me. It was just tired. It was in a lot of pain, and I myself wasn't giving up, but it just felt like my body was. And I just I went out for the day with my friend, and asked my mum to pick me up early because I was in so much pain. And then, like, I can remember the drive home, just thinking, I think this is the last time I'm going to see a tree. This is the last time I'm going to see this and that, and taking it all in. I was quite content because I was happy with where I got to, and I just thought my body needed a rest. So I went to bed that afternoon because I just couldn't cope anymore, and gave my mum the biggest hug and thought that was the last time I was going to see it. But then luckily I woke up, so I carried on fighting.
Wow. That I, how do you like the next day when you wake up, was that just because you woke up, you were like, I'm not giving up now. Like
Yeah,
that's the last time I even attempt to give up.
yeah, totally. I just think, and the day before I was like, I know I said it, but I was in so much pain that I couldn't see any other way other than being in that massive amount of pain and tiredness. Like, you know, you say you're tired after a night out or something. It was beyond that. It was just, my body was just like, just give me a break. Like, it's so tired of trying to do these things. Um, but then when I woke up, I was like, right, this is it. There's a reason I've woken up. I've got to keep fighting. There's
That
got to
that's
be something to be done.
that's incredible. I absolutely love that. Um, so then from then, where did you start to obviously because you've said there's is there 5 stages of Parkinson's?
I think so. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure I've read that there's 5 stages, but
Well,
I was at
we'll,
the very last.
we'll go with five. So there's
Yeah.
five being the worst. How did you then take yourself from obviously with the help of the medication, but how did you take yourself from the fifth stage, the worst one, to where you are now?
Basically having a fight about you and stubbornness and the will to want to get there. So I really started with a simple walk every day. It started as simple as just walking up the garden path and back, and getting myself to the toilet by myself, and just, you know, all those kind of simple tasks. Spending doing daily tasks that everyone else does, that everyone else takes for granted, just like even putting the dishes away. So that was a goal for me at one stage. But then to make it go further, this walk a day turned into, I have a race course just by me, which is 2 kilometers, and my mum used to walk it every day with my dog. So my goal was to get around there without stopping. And I did it in 6 weeks. Like, it took me didn't, like, the whole walk didn't take me 6 weeks. But
Yeah, just camping out on the trip.
And it took me 6 weeks to complete without stopping.
Wow. So at any point, was there anyone who was saying that you couldn't do these things?
Oh, definitely. There was people that were saying that, you know, this is as far as I would go, this is as good as I would get. But I think if you've got a bit of, I don't know what the word is, but if you've got something about you that you want to get further, I think you can. As I say, anything is possible.
Yeah, I've seen firsthand. So my nan, she has what's called post-polio syndrome.
Right.
And basically, so polio, when she had that as a kid, it basically comes back to bite you in the arse when you get to later life and causes all sorts of problems. But she's given into the fact that doctors have said, this is how you're going to be. And it's just so hard to watch it. And, you know, I guess from your standpoint as well, you're looking at, like, your kids, you want to be doing things with your kids and pushing yourself to, be able to, I don't know, go for a walk with the dog with them
Yeah.
and not fall over, kind of thing. So what else? So what other milestones did you then come to reach?
Okay, well, this one's quite cool. So I joked to my doctor and said, I'm going to just do a triathlon. And he just looked at me and shook his head and was like, Jules, I know you're a fighter, but that's not probably physically possible. You can't do it. And that was the worst thing he could have said to me, because if you say I can't do something, I have to do it. And I went on to complete 3 triathlons.
Wow. So how did you find training for them?
Oh, it's tough, but and there were days where I was like, this is actually pretty impossible. But yeah, the biking was good, because apparently cycling is really good for Parkinson's. It reduces symptoms. The rhythm of it apparently helps. Running, I hate running with a passion, so that was just, yeah, I knew I just had to get that done. And the swimming, I was always a swimmer when I was young, so the technique and all was there, so it was fine. Like, it was hard work, really hard work. I had to keep on it, but yeah, it was good fun.
Here's a question then. So you obviously said, like, the swimming was fine, but does Parkinson's affect your motor learning patterns? So obviously as a kid you learn to do certain things, but does it affect the way you remember them, and does it take longer to maybe get back to it?
I don't think so. I think once it's ingrained in you, it's there. But it's more about the messages that get sent to places in your body. My doctor has explained it to me, but I'm terrible at remembering how to explain things. But so for instance, if I put my hand out to grab a drink, the messages wouldn't get there as quick as someone else's, because they fuse or something on the way. But rhythm is a massive help for me. I have music on constantly, and if my tablets aren't working, which happens quite often, I put my headphones in and I can go to the beat. So I don't know whether the rhythm of swimming, like the 1, 2, 3, breathe, and yeah, maybe that helped. I don't know.
Was there ever a moment, especially with swimming, where you were scared that, you know, where you had it's the 1, 2, 3 and breathe? Did you ever get scared that there was going to be a time where the message just didn't come and you were going to be like, shit,
Of,
I'm stuck?
of course there was, but you've got to live in fear a bit, haven't you? It adds to the excitement.
That's very true. It's very true. So why fitness? Why did fitness come into the picture?
I've always been quite sporty, because I wasn't academic at school, so sport was my thing. That's one thing I did miss through the years of being poorly. I used to look at people doing things like marathons and all sorts. I'd be like, oh, I just would love to do it again. All of that sporty stuff. So fitness just came quite naturally to me. It was just the thing that our family did.
Yeah. So that obviously when you started walking and stuff, was that just instantly ingrained? Like, I want to be doing something.
Yeah, definitely. I wanted to progress every step of the way. I was like always wanting to better myself.
So where did CrossFit come into the picture from there?
Oh, CrossFit. Oh, I love CrossFit. It's been my saving grace, honestly. So I went from triathlons, which was really good fun at the time and an amazing community. But I got bored quite quickly of just cycling, swimming, and running, like only being challenged at those three things. And so then I went to like fitness classes, like 60 seconds of like intense cardio, and found I got a real buzz from that, and like the sweaty kind of workouts. And then I just wanted to challenge myself more and more. And my daughter had started CrossFit a year before, and she said, Mum, you'd love it. And I was like, oh God, they're all so strong and so fit. I don't think my balance and coordination would lift a barbell and things. Still doesn't very well, but we'll go with it. And then I went to my first class on recommendation from my daughter.
Wow. So how was that first class?
Scary, really scary.
So were you okay just going in and turning up, or was it like a bit of I don't want to do this?
No, there was never, I don't want to do this. It was, I had a bit of a panic attack the first time I went, and I ended up going home without going to the class. But then I realised that I do want to challenge myself, so you've got to try it. Like I've got the motto also, got to try everything once before you sign it off. So I went back the very next day, and my legs, which are very excitable, they made an entrance into the class. And I was greeted by Sam Fennick, the coach there, who's my coach now, and she's absolutely wonderful. And she just was so welcoming and just adapted everything for me and didn't make me feel any different. Like my ability obviously was a lot lower than the average person. But I didn't feel that. I didn't feel any difference at all. It was just great.
You say your ability is a lot less than the average person, but I'd say now your ability is a lot more than the average person.
I probably could kick a few people's asses. Yeah.
So before this, I always like to go through, people's social media, that kind of thing, and have a look at, what they've been doing. And I saw a video that you put on, it was about a month ago, actually, of how far you'd come.
Yeah.
And it was the bit where you were in, I think it was a CrossFit competition in Marbella. Is that right?
Oh yeah, Marbella Championship. They honestly have my heart. That was the best championship ever.
Like to see, the video where you're hunched over, looking like you're just about to collapse to the floor, to then you throw in handstands like they're absolutely nothing, and throwing barbells about like it's just like 2 kilo nothing as well. It's an absolute insane transformation. Like, do you ever look back on it and go, shit, I've come a long way? Like,
only recently when making that video, like I'm very much a person who doesn't look back. I always look forward. but making that video, I was like, wow, I have actually defeated quite a lot of things. And yeah, it's quite crazy how far I've come.
So why CrossFit competition? Why did that interest you?
So I entered one, a local one here, and I loved the buzz. I fell to pieces completely. Couldn't do half the things. My body was having a proper spaz out, and I could not clean the bars up. And all the moves were just hopeless for me. But the buzz of the day and the atmosphere and just the feeling was amazing. And oh, I'm sorry. Before that, I entered an adaptive competition with my daughter. So one able-bodied person and one adaptive. And that's where I think I got the buzz from, because she pushes me all the time. That well, they both do, but she pushes me more in the CrossFit area. My son would push me more in the partying way. But yeah, so yeah, I think that's where the CrossFit competition stem from, starting it with my daughter.
I saw the video where you did it with your daughter, and I think you were doing goblet squats at the time. And you just so you go up, and there's just no up, and you fall backwards. But I love the fact that you just laughed it off, and just carried on with it.
And I got up and said to her at that point, "This weight is so heavy." She went, "Come on, you can do it."
Is there ever, or I feel like there isn't now, but was there ever a time where you were constantly in fear of judgment from others for what you're trying to do, or how people may perceive you?
Not a fear, but obviously you do. It's hard to describe. It's not nice being judged. I've had like quite a few judgmental comments. Sorry, I can't speak. Comments sent my way. So I was in the line to the pharmacy at Boots, and my legs were like on one that day. They were all over the place, and I could hardly really control them at all. And I got called a druggie, and I've been called a drunk in Tesco's by someone. So yeah, it is hard to hear them, but you just got to end up feeling sorry for that person, because you just think, well, why do you think that? Why would you throw that at someone?
I feel like it's a lot of the time lack of education. I feel
Yeah.
it's with anything. Like I think when you see people be racist, but they don't intentionally do it. It's just generally lack of, like, even when they intentionally do it, it's just they're so uneducated on certain things
Yeah.
that people do need to, that's where we need to be better. Is I think people need to start educating themselves on different things and how people may be affected by what you say.
But then when you're uneducated in it, why throw a comment about it? That's what I don't understand. Like, we're not judgmental at all in our family. And I just think if you don't know, then just don't comment on it. If you've got, as my mum always says, if you've got nothing nice to say, then don't say anything at all.
That's it. I personally can't ever fathom how someone can just make comments so blasé and be okay with it. Like I was talking to a friend yesterday and he was telling me about just some of the casual racism that he experiences. And I'm like, I can't even imagine how people just think these comments are okay. And even like,
It's
with
awful.
disabilities, everything, there's just so much. And you're like, come on, like just educate.
Yeah, like that person is going through enough on a day-to-day basis. Why would you want to throw in some horrible comment, and which you don't know actually if it is correct or not?
That's it. It's just absolutely baffling. What can people do to educate themselves about things like this? How can people, learn more about how to, not how to be around people with disabilities or whatever, but how can they just learn to be better?
Um, well, just don't judge. Just treat everybody the same. Everyone's a human being at the end of the day. Um, Everyone has feelings. Everyone has the same day-to-day things they go through. So just treat everyone equally.
I totally 100% agree. I just think there's so many people who I
And
just don't think
accept,
they know it.
isn't it? It's just accept people for what they are, because like everyone's different. God, the world would be a boring place if we were all the same.
Oh, 100%.
Just accept it, isn't it?
I think if there was two of me as well, I think the world would just be a worse place, if I'm honest.
If that's me, oh my God, my mum and dad would have kittens, honestly.
So what do you plan to do with the CrossFit competition? Do you plan to take it further?
Oh, I'd love to take it further. So it's been a great platform to be able to get my story out there to help people. It's made me a bit just known that this is what you can do and what you can achieve if you put your mind to it. I am definitely 100% going back to Marbella Championship without fail, even if I have to sell my house to get there. I honestly can't thank Marbella Championship enough for what they've done for me. They've been supportive after, before, and during. They're just wonderful. So I'd like to carry on competing to be able to spread the message that your life doesn't have to end when you get diagnosed with something like early onset Parkinson's.
Love it.
Your life can just begin.
So with the CrossFit, just as a general overview, obviously they've now introduced adaptive divisions, haven't they? So what are some of the adaptive divisions for people that may not know?
So there's neuromuscular, which is what the category I fit into, and there's lower, impairment, I think it's called, or something. So I have a few friends with the legs missing, and my really good friend Charlie, he got me in. I actually met him at the first adaptive competition in Cardiff, and we've been friends ever since. And he's been my like shining star throughout it, guiding me through these adaptive competitions. He was the one who got me to sign up to Marbella. So there's them, and there's amputees of arms and legs, and I do actually think the hardest category has got to be, not taking it away from the others, but it's got to be the neuromuscular, because it is such a wide range of illnesses. Is that what you call it? Illnesses? Yeah. Disabilities, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's what I can think of at the top of my head.
Because it's new this year. Last year it was new to the games, wasn't it?
I think it's 3 years old, isn't it? Is it? I could be wrong.
I could be wrong because I don't follow it. I don't follow it closely. I think it may just be they're putting a lot more into the growth of it. They're like, because before I'd only ever seen there was the men and the women's, and then I followed a guy called, I think he's called Logan Aldridge.
Yeah.
Insane. The guy who can clean and jerk 100 kilo with one arm.
Crazy. See, anything is possible.
Literally, I can't even clean and jerk 100 kilos. So
I can't get it on my knees.
And it's just like I found the adaptive division through his Instagram, and I think since then it's obviously grown a lot. And I really like the fact that they are incorporating it and they are allowing this inclusivity for anyone to compete, Definitely.
It's really good. I think it opens up the whole thing for other people to enter then, doesn't it? Because I'm pretty sure, actually thinking back, I'm pretty sure it is 3 years, because Amy Bream, is it? Her handle name is One Leg to Stand On. She's hilarious. I'm pretty sure she's done it 3 times, CrossFit Games, I'm pretty sure.
What division is she?
She's lower amputee, I think.
Okay. See, I've only ever really watched the upper amputee, and that, like, I don't know, I struggle to move regularly. Never mind, like I'm just like, I'm blown away by these athletes who can adapt to they look at the situation and just go, fuck it, I'm gonna do it. And
it's like rope climbs and all with one arm, and crazy people.
Like, yeah, it's wild. I saw actually in the video you did. Was it your first rope climb in
Yes,
the
well,
video?
my first legless rope climb.
That is wild to be able to do that.
I'm impressed with that, and I have got quite strong arms, but not at the moment. But yeah, yeah, I was well impressed with that, and in front of Craig Ritchie.
So how was that whole day with him? Like, because obviously he told your story in a very, very beautiful way, that it was so just raw and great the way he told it. I really
He did.
liked it.
He did put it beautifully together. It was so lovely. That day was so special. It will stay with me forever, I think, definitely. He was just, they were just so normal people and so genuinely lovely and welcoming, and yeah, it was just so calm, and I thought my legs would be thrown all over the place, but they were just so welcoming. You felt at ease straight away. They're just, yeah, they're beautiful people, beautiful.
Yeah, it's quite funny actually. I haven't actually spoken to him, but when I was at the Formula One at Silverstone in July, so Bastille were playing, and there was a certain song that was on, and there was a group behind us who was screaming to the song. I was like, "Who's that?" And I turned around, I was like, "I recognise that guy," and it turned out to be Kevin Winkins. You know the,
Oh yes, yeah.
and I was like, I was like, I know him from somewhere, and then I turn a bit more, and I'm like, oh my god, that's Craig Ritchie. I was like, what are the chances? Like, I didn't
Yeah,
speak to him, like, but yeah, he was just like, he just seemed like, just normal as can be person.
they are really normal. I'm meeting him on 10th of December in London, actually, at the Hustle pop-up shop thing.
Are you?
So
Oh, you're going to be there, are you?
yeah.
So yeah, if I was in the UK, I would 100% have been going to that event. I'm quite gutted
Oh,
that I'm not.
it's amazing. And like Mikey Steele and all those will be there. It's going to be such a laugh.
Yeah, it's
Crazy.
the absolute powerhouses as well. Them lot, like Reggie Fasser, Mikey Steele,
Yeah, that's
Kevin.
it that I was thinking of, Reggie. Yeah.
Yeah, fittest in the UK.
Yeah. I think I'll
Wild.
be a little bit starstruck though, because like they're just they're phenomenal, aren't they? So
Yeah, like to be fair, like I've done a few interviews with certain people. I'm not. You might know him because he is slightly in CrossFit. Leon Bustin, part of the Lean Machines.
yes, I do
Yeah.
know.
So I did an interview with him, and before it, I was like, I had that feeling where I'm like, oh my god, I'm going to be speaking to Leon Bustin, and then it was just like the most genuine guy, like just
You had that
every
feeling to me also, didn't you?
100%. I was like, oh my god. But yeah, it's like I don't know. You always tend to find when you speak to these people, you're like, just it's like having a pint with your mate in the pub, just
Yeah,
genuine.
definitely. They are all at the end of the day, they are just normal human beings, aren't they? But
Yeah,
we see them on the screen and on social media, we think they're something like, yeah, they are
it
just normal.
it kind of creates that barrier. I feel like when it's through social media and through YouTube, whatever, it just I feel like it creates this barrier of like they're just this. We're like on one
They
side and
wouldn't want
they're on the
anything
other.
you kind of thing, would they? That's what you think, but they're all just lovely, lovely people. To be honest, all CrossFitters are lovely, I find.
I've that's one thing I have noticed. I feel like it's one of the most inclusive communities, and just everyone becomes friends with everyone.
Yeah.
Because I'm into like jiu-jitsu and stuff like that, and I find them communities are very similar because you spend a lot of time with the same people, and
Mm.
everyone just becomes mates with everyone.
Yeah, I'd love a go at jiu-jitsu. Look, it's quite fun. Is that the one where you like put them on the floor?
So so there's judo, which is like to do with that's the Olympic sport where you take them down. Like
Okay.
there's a lot of the takedowns and stuff, and jiu-jitsu is like submission based. So can you basically it's like the extreme of it is like, can you break someone's arm or can you choke them out? And but it's not like that. Like everyone is. So if I get someone in a choke, as soon as they tap or say tap, I let go. Done. There's
Oh, we have to have a go at that. When you're back in the UK, you have to. Like,
we'll find a
like,
gym near you.
like, I'm willing to try anything, but that sounds fun. I could
Oh,
use it on my brothers at Christmas.
it's honestly great. it's one of those sports. It's very like CrossFit, where it humbles you very quickly. So there's guys who go to jiu-jitsu who like they might be, you know, half the size of me, the bit, you know, bigger, like just, you know, they don't look at it like in great shape. They'll throw you about. They will absolutely throw you about, give you a hard time, and put you to sleep if they wanted to. Just as if it was nothing.
Looks deceiving.
That's it. That's it. Like, because you know, you look at CrossFit athletes and you just think they're massive.
There
They're
is
going
a
to be a
certain
beast.
level, isn't there? Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas with this, it's like there's guys who weigh half what I do, and they have thrown me about. And like there was once actually a guy threw me to the floor, and it happened so fast that I hit the floor and I felt like my soul had left my body. Like I was just like, I had no idea what was going on.
Oh my gosh, you poor thing. I bet
It's
that was quite good fun at the same time.
It is, because you're always learning, you're always adapting. Because
Yeah.
that's the thing. It's I think sports where you can look at a situation and go, what went wrong? How can I make it better? They're the best because you're always a beginner. You can never be the expert. There's always someone who can teach you that bit more, you know?
That's exactly what CrossFit's like. I think that's why I love it so much, is because there's always new challenges and always new things to learn, always new skills. You're never going to be amazing at all of it. There's always something you can improve on.
Yeah. The one thing I do like, I really love CrossFit as the community, but what I
Yeah.
don't, it's quite pricey for the general population. Because I remember when I was in uni in Liverpool, I was like, I want to go to a CrossFit gym. That was when I got into that, and I looked at the price. I was like, £20 for a pure gym, or it's like upwards towards 100 a month for CrossFit, and I was like, that's the only issue that's there.
Yeah, yeah. But you need to come down and live in West Wales. We're all cheap down here. But it is an expensive thing. But then it's worth the money, I feel. Because you just learn so much.
100%. It's like now I wouldn't have a problem doing it, but it's like I feel like
But at that age, yeah.
it's that be like, for me it was being a student, or you know, maybe someone is like, you know, they work all hours of the week and they don't really have much money aside because, you know, they got kids or something, and then they go, I just want some community. They can't find it in CrossFit because it does outprice people, and that's where maybe gyms can be a bit more inclusive. But overall, as a sport, it's unbelievable what it does for people.
They could put in like student discounts and things.
Yeah, just a cheeky 20%. I'm all good with that.
Yes, we all love a 20% off.
I still rinse uni days, so you know I'll be doing that till I'm 28, 29.
Yeah, the community of it is just mind-blowingly amazing. We talked about acceptance before, about me accepting who I am. CrossFit massively helped me accept who I am and embrace who I am. Like I've never been embarrassed to be as the way I move and things. And even with the judgmental comments thrown in my way, I haven't ever like dwelled on it and thought bad of myself, but I think CrossFit has definitely given me more confidence to be like, yes, this is me, spazzy legs and all, bring it on, love them or hate them, you know. It's definitely has given me confidence.
So for people, obviously there's a lot of people in the world who struggle with self-confidence, struggle with self-belief. What are your main sort of, what would you say to people who struggle with self-confidence?
Stop caring about what people think. Because my mum once said to me when I was a teenager, and she said, you're never going to stop people thinking, so why worry about it? And that stuck with me, and I just think, be confident with who you are. You're who you are for a reason, and just embrace it and love every part of you, whether it's spazzy, whether it's whatever. I just, like I've said in previously, I used to really hate my jittery legs because they're so unreliable. Sorry, so unreliable. But now I absolutely love them, like they're part of me. So definitely just embrace who you are. Love yourself.
Love it. Absolutely love it. And for people to, how can people support you and what you do and your message you're trying to put across?
Just get people moving. That's what I want to do. I just want people to know that I've said before, life doesn't stop when you get diagnosed with a neurological disorder. It can just begin, and just, I don't really know how, just know that anything is possible and just keep throwing the love my way.
Absolutely love it. So where can people find you? How can people see what you're up to all the time?
So I'm on Instagram as Spazzy Jules.
Okay.
You can follow my journey through that of CrossFit and being spazzy. I love calling myself spazzy. I make a joke of myself all the time.
I've noticed.
Yeah, and just I really hope I get the chance to keep competing, because it is very, very, very expensive to keep traveling to these places. And just spreading my message, really. That's where you'll find me on Instagram, spreading the love of having Parkinson's and having the laughs. Honestly, the fails are the best thing to watch ever. Keep an eye on my story, because that's where I mainly put my fails.
like your shoulder, popping your shoulder out, eh?
What a donut. I was literally doing a handstand walk and just fell the wrong way, and I didn't even know I'd done it. And I actually went on to do another workout and then I said to my coach, "Oh, do you know, I think I've really bruised my shoulder. It's really hurting. So I'm going to go home and ice it and then come back this afternoon." And then as I got closer to home, I just steered my car straight to A&E, and I had dislocated my shoulder.
Was it still dislocated when you
Yeah.
What?
I have come to the conclusion I am literally as hard as nails.
Yeah, it sounds it.
No, but it didn't actually hurt that much when I did it. It was just like, oh, I knocked my shoulder, and I said to my friend, oh, that we were laughing. Like, I was literally on the floor laughing, and she was laughing at me. And I got up, had a chat with them, and then went on and did another workout with a dislocated shoulder. I think I've said insane as well.
I've gathered that bit.
Yeah, that's maybe what you need to be as positive as I am. Be a little bit insane.
I also want to ask, because obviously you said you were going to go back in the afternoon for a workout. How many days a week do you work out? And also, what does your training schedule look like?
So, before the competitions took off and I realized I was fairly good at CrossFit, like the adapt in my category, or like the love of it, I was doing as many classes as I could. So once a day, I would go 7 days a week if you let me. But I limited it to 6 days a week, only because the gym wasn't open on the Sunday. And yeah, so then after the competitions I did really well, and I enjoyed them. My daughter's partner is a brilliant coach, and he made me a program to get better, because I wanted to get much stronger and be able to do the moves better and improve my technique. And so then my training program looked like twice a day, 3 times a week, 3 or 4 times a week, and then and then the rest once a day. But
it's intense, very intense.
Oh, I know, but I love it. I literally, I can't get enough of it.
Yeah.
I know I'm a bit crazy, but honestly, it's just amazing what the feeling I get from training that much. and just the social side of it, everything is just great.
Yeah. So what do you do for recovery as well?
Oh, cry. No, recovery. I'm quite, my argument is, right, I spent so many years in the wheelchair. I rested then, so I don't need to rest now. And so it's not always the best way to look at it, but so my recovery days are literally just walking the dog. I'm always active, always doing something. I can't sit down for longer than 10 minutes.
So you done pretty well here then, haven't you? To last what,
Yeah.
55 minutes, like.
I know, and I haven't even jigged that much. I've been quite good. I've been quite controlled. But then also, if you take the my Madapar away from me and my other drugs, I'll be like cardboard and won't be able to move. So if you need me to keep still, that's all you have to do.
I still can't get over the fact that literally a few medication can change your world, basically.
Oh, definitely. It is. So I think when I was diagnosed and what stage I was at, they said when your medication doesn't work, because not every tablet works, it depends on what you've eaten, and like if you've got a full stomach or you've eaten too much protein, the tablet doesn't always work because it absorbs from the gut. So they did say that I would revert back to where I was, and actually now I don't revert back quite as bad, but there are times when I can't move because my medication isn't working, and I slow down massively. But yeah, it is quite crazy that it's like a magic pill. It really is.
Is there anything like a nutritional intervention that you found helps as well in terms of symptoms?
Oh yeah, massively. So I think diet has had a massive thing to do with it as well. So I read a book. It's a really hard book to read, because the writing's really small. But written by John Coleman, and he's from America, and he was claiming that he had cured himself of Parkinson's, and he shows you a load of exercises to do, which were really boring for me, but the diet was amazing that he told you to follow. It was basically no sugar, no wheat, no dairy, no meat. That's the base of it. So I stuck to that religiously for 3 years, didn't cheat once on it. And I do think that has had a massive thing to my recovery of getting to where I am. But now, like, obviously I add a bit more food into it because I need more protein and things. But yeah, so diet has had a massive impact on me as well as exercise.
So did you go vegan diet then?
Sounds it, doesn't it? Pretty much.
Yeah.
I pretty much lived on fish and veg.
Wow. Because yeah, you hear a lot about, meats and dairies being inflammatory foods and not so helpful, especially in terms of recovery from injuries and what have you. But obviously there's both sides of it. It can and it can't. But it's crazy that cutting those things out has helped as well.
It is, and gluten was a massive deal for me. Like, I still can't tolerate gluten at all, but they say cutting out gluten out of a diet for Parkinson's is a massive help. And yeah, it's just crazy that your body can survive on like fish and veg, and literally at the best, my skin was amazing. I felt really good. I was like never tired. It was, yeah, diet is just crazy. Yeah, if you got it right, you're running.
Absolutely love it. Yeah, I think this is probably the best place to end, but I've got one final question for you.
Oh, go on, throw it at me.
How would you like to be remembered?
As a nutty spaz.
Absolutely love it, and completely sums up this episode. It's been fantastic.
Thank you ever so much. It's been a delight.
I just want to say a massive thank you to Jules for this episode. I remember walking away from it thinking, shit, I need to up my game in terms of my positivity towards life, because this woman has gone through so much more than I have, yet she is so much more positive than me. So it was a lesson that I needed, and probably some people who are listening may need. Yeah, it was one of the most insightful podcasts that I've done, and she's just amazing. So please follow Jules. You'll find the links in the description below. And please remember to share the podcast, like it, subscribe, and yeah, follow along as more episodes come out week by week every Monday. So be sure to watch out for the next one. Thank you.